Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story this hour. In the race to control the U.S. Senate, the Democrats have now managed to retain the Senate. This comes after the Democrats won the Nevada election, where Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez won a tight re-election race against Republican Adam Laxalt. Now, Cortez's victory gives Democrats 50 seats in the 118th Congress, while Republican Senate control stands at 49 seats. The state's Democrats have frequently outperformed expectations in the recent elections, and history has repeated itself, with Cortez defeating Republican Laxalt for a second term. Cortez faced strong headwinds throughout the race as Democrats tried to counter a nationally hostile environment centered around inflation and other economic issues. According to experts, the latest projection clearly indicates that the more candidates who are associated with Donald Trump and the ultra Make America Great Again movement lost in many states across America. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden said that the Democrats' unexpected midterm election successes have sent him into crunch talks with China's Xi Jinping in a stronger position. Biden, who is in Cambodia for the ASEAN summit, said that he feels good and he is looking forward to the next couple of years. Retaining the Senate control is a huge boost to U.S. Joe Biden, remaining 2 years of his term as president in the White House. Now, earlier, the incumbent Democrat Mark Kelly defeated Republican Blake Masters to win the Senate seat in Arizona. Now, for more on this, we're being joined by Raymond Vickery from Washington, D.C., who is an advisor on U.S.-India relations and a junior former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce. Thank you for being with us, Raymond. Now, a big win for the Democrats in the midterms and no red wave victory as predicted by Trump. Take us through some of the most notable results.
Well, I thank you for having me. It's big news in Washington this morning, as you can see from the Washington Post. It's the headline. This is an historic achievement for the Democrats. As you know, usually when you have a new president in office, as Joe Biden is, you lose very handily in both the House and the Senate. That's been the historic case with Obama. It was a historic case when I was in office with President Clinton. But this time, democracy has been on the ballot. And in most cases, democracy has won out. I think it's important to note the old saying that, you can fool some of the people all the time and all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And that's what has happened, it seems to me, in terms of President Trump ex-President Trump trying to interfere with the elections across the board. People value democracy, and there is a lot of sentiment to have democracy function in the United States. There was no evidence of any kind of fraud. The big lie of ex-President Trump was debunked. Now, we still have counting to go on. Very much in the House, you have about a dozen or so seats which have not been called, which could really change the picture in the House of Representatives. And as you know, we have the runoff between Senator Warnock and Herschel Walker in Georgia, which could result in an even greater control of the Senate than is now the present case. So it's an astounding kind of result, it seems to me, in the face of the headwinds that you have noted about inflation, the price of gas, the attempts of the Republicans to scare people about immigration and about crime, that in spite of all this, in most of the cases, there has been a resounding rejection of that approach to politics. And for me and those of us who have historically been able to reach across the aisle, It restores the possibility that what President Joe Biden has tried to do, and that is to build coalitions, will win out in the end. And as you've noted, internationally, it's extremely important. Democracy faces challenges across the board in many, many nations, and it is up to the great democracies of the world, India, U.S., South Africa, to buckle down and see that the democratic way of conducting politics takes place in a civil and constructive manner. So it's a great day here in Washington for Democrats, but more importantly, it's a great day for democracy.
Absolutely. And Raymond, as you said, Joe Biden called this an election where democracy was on the ballot. Take us through what this win means for the Democrats in the coming 2 years.
Well, what it means is that instead of just being a deadlock, and that is having a solid Congress which is opposed to the president and is going to try at every turn to tear him down, that you will not have that from the Senate. And you'll be able to do the kinds of things that have already been done in regard to infrastructure, in regard to the policy of making computer chips in the United States, on civil rights. For the very first time, there was a coalition under the president's leadership to outlaw the kinds of lynchings which had been going on in the United States, make it a federal crime. Those kinds of things will be possible, and particularly important is climate change. As you know, there were a majority of climate deniers on the Republican side in the Senate who were ready to stymie the kinds of immediate action that are necessary to protect human life, human property, well-being across the globe from climate change. So that's very important, and that'll be on the agenda when President Biden meets President Xi out at the G20. And it certainly gives the president a stronger position to be able to negotiate with world leaders across the board. And I expect we'll see immediate results from this. I think there will be a communique that'll come out of the G20. And if there had been a perceived weakness on the part of President Biden, that might not have been possible. So I think that it opens up a whole range, and it's particularly important in regard to the confirmation process for judges, for ambassadors in the United States Senate. As you know, there has been some holdup in terms of getting the confirmation which the United States Senate has. Disgracefully, there isn't even an ambassador from the U.S. To India. We need to be able to do that through the United States Senate. And now, instead of having Republicans in control of the process, that is, determining when things come up, that will not be the case, and it will be possible to move, I believe, Senate confirmations in a way which would have been impossible had Republicans gotten control of the Senate.
Right, Raymond, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your analysis and your valued inputs there.
Thank you very much for having me.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.